Good morning, group. I am Karen Stone, and today I will be discussing multimedia approaches to help reduce cognitive overload and improve recall. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to properly set up a classroom utilizing multimedia learning techniques that will reduce cognitive overload and increase a student's ability to recall information. Increasing a student's ability to recall isn't always about poor sleeping habits or poor study habits. Research has shown that the brain can only process a certain amount of new information all at once. The ability for the brain to produce information is known as cognitive load theory. During the remaining time, we will look into cognitive overload, visual and auditory recall, and some suggestions to help students recall information. Before we get started, I want to wake up your brain. When I say go, you will have 30 seconds to spot 10 or more differences between the two images and then identify what those differences are by taking out a piece of paper and writing them down. Ready, set, go. Okay, time's up. The purpose of this exercise was to test both your auditory and visual recall. The actual directions from sharpbrains.com were, can you find 10 differences between the two pictures? Now that sounds a lot easier, correct? I hope so, because for the remainder of the presentation, we will be discussing ways to help our students recall information and avoid cognitive overload. Failure to achieve recall is frustrating for both the student and the educator. Doyle covers three main reasons we fail to recall information. One reason is the inability to retrieve a memory. The second reason is old and new memories interfere with each other. And the third reason is when individuals purposely forget information. According to Mayer, we fail to recall information because 1. The brain cannot make sense of the material when the lesson is poorly written. Thus, failure to recall occurs. 2. Lessons are taught too quickly and the brain is unable to process the information. And 3. The student lacks the motivation to learn, so the brain doesn't exert the effort needed to perform recall. So, how do we as educators fix these issues? As educators, it is our responsibility to reduce cognitive overload. In order to reduce cognitive overload, as an educator, you have to understand the concept behind cognitive load theory. This theory is about utilizing one's sensory, working, and long-term memory via instructional design concepts to enhance recall and memory in the educational environment. Why is all of this important for our children and how they learn? As humans, our brain organizes words and pictures as new information by either visual or auditory means. The information is processed in the working memory, and relevant information is then integrated into the long-term memory. Visual recall involves images that can be seen to enhance recall and memory skills. Visual learners are able to gain a better understanding when they are presented with pictures and words along with an auditory narration. Auditory recall involves having the ability to hear but also interpret what is being said. Listening and seeing are the two main forms of teaching in today's environment. According to Doyle, the goal is to develop these skills by incorporating different forms of multisensory teaching into the classroom. Students who utilize more than one learning technique were able to recall approximately 50% more creative solutions to problems they were given. According to Doyle, research has generated 5 main ideas on how to incorporate the use of multimedia to enhance student learning. The goal is to create an environment that enhances a student's visual and auditory processing center by utilizing more than one technique. According to Mayer, multimedia is presenting words and pictures. Multi-learning is the ability to build a mental representation via words and pictures. And multimedia instruction is presenting words and pictures designed to promote learning. For the remaining portion of this presentation, we will be covering a few examples of multimedia and multimedia learning. Mind mapping and concept maps will be the first two examples that I will discuss. Using a mind map as a memory jogger can help both visual and auditory recall. Mind maps are also used for brainstorming, summarizing information, and note-taking. They are also useful when trying to think through complex problems or presenting information that shows the overall structure of a subject. Mind maps can be color-coded, words, pictures, symbols, or a combination of words and pictures. Concept maps can also be used as memory joggers. Designing a concept map is a task to help with visual recall. A concept map is an example of clustering similar information together to form a group. It allows students to recreate a narrative lesson into a visual one using their own ideas to help them remember. Concept maps help students find patterns between what they hear and see. Students could then utilize the information as either a study technique or to teach other students the lesson. Teaching other students is the next example for utilizing multimedia tools for enhancing recall. Students teaching other students a new idea increases understanding and recall. Doyle recommends using this idea for committing information to a student's long-term memory, and by teaching others, students are reinforcing what they have learned. Not all students will like designing a concept map or standing up in front of others to teach as tools for enhancing recall and memory. So what other methods are out there? Flashcards and mnemonics will be the next two concepts we will discuss. Flashcards are another technique used to promote recall. With today's technology, students can either create their own flashcards using index cards, or they can download free software that will create them. Flashcards can be used to promote recall on several different levels by promoting active recall of information received. So far, we have discussed mind mapping, concept mapping, student teaching, other students, and the use of flashcards as multimedia techniques used to enhance recall and memory. The final example is the use of mnemonics. Doyle suggests using mnemonics as a tool to help students enhance their memory. Mnemonics can use any sensory process to promote recall. One example is the number shape mnemonic. The number shape mnemonic is an example for learners who recall information by visual means. MindTools.com explains that this example works by helping you build pictures in your mind that represents numbers or any other item you want to remember. On this slide, the swan represents the number 2. Another mnemonic is the number rhyming technique that helps to remember lists in order. The goal is to create peg words that are linked to a sequence. For example, 1, bun, 2, shoe, 3, tree. The number rhyming mnemonic technique is a way for auditory learners to recall information. Now that we have covered several different techniques to help enhance student recall and memory, let's go ahead and summarize it all. As educators, it is our responsibility to help our students enhance their recall and memory techniques. We covered the following techniques: mind mapping, concept mapping, teaching, flashcards, and mnemonics as examples to help students process information from their sensory memory to their long-term memory and promote personal recall. I will leave you with a statement from Richard Mayer. People learn better when multimedia messages are developed based on how the human mind works.